All right, since I know the day's been long, we're going to run through this. They gave me 20 minutes, so I'm not going to show any fancy systems. I'm not going to connect to a system. I'm going to show some slides. We're going to run through it in a controlled manner. I'm going to show you top-down budgeting, all right? So you have myself, Paul Ciardo, CEO of the Americas for the TPG. We're going to focus on 2013. PMCS, which stands for Project Management Control System. It's a platform that we built out for managing large, complex program here in the United States, and we're expanding it out throughout the world. We're going to go through a typical budgeting cycle. We're going to go through basic planning details within Project Pro. Then we're going to cover how to create a simple budgeting structure within PMCS. We're going to cover integrating the schedule with and budget details, creating a budget through the grid, workflow approval, and then posting the budgets back to your project. So few quick questions. Who in here budgets based on a CBS, cost breakdown structure? Okay, so cost breakdown structure is typically different than your schedule. So most accounting systems or project accounting systems will require data aggregations based on accounting buckets. So it's not your delivery schedule. It's more of a aggregation of cost and so on. How many of you typically do that? You should all be raising your hands. Come on, this is typically how an organization works. Now my clicker's not working. Can Project Server be used to manage project budgets? Now, you're assuming since you're in here, it can be used. So it can be out-of-the-box standard. It does have some functions to allow for base budgeting within the schedule alone, not from a controls perspective. Can you control budgets without schedule changes? In Project Server today, they're interdependent, so you cannot. So with PMCS, you can. You can actually run project controls outside of the schedule. So we're gonna demonstrate how to do this with a basic link it, sync it, budget think model. Okay. So first, what is PMCS? PMCS is it's a platform that extends out Project Server and SharePoint. It's a modular-based tool, so whatever you need, you can pretty much turn on different modules within the environment. So typically, Project Server is focused on project scheduling, project planning, resource planning, collaboration, and list management, basic list management. Versus PMCS, we've extended it out to allow for full budget management. So this is budget management from a project site, which integrates to a program level, and you could create different budget structures or cost breakdown structures for your organization, and those could integrate through. Next, we take it to another level with full contracts management and then traceability throughout your systems with cost changes, budget modifications, and so on. Full invoice management, and these components of finance can be integrated with your ERP systems like SAP, Oracle, and so on. We have some new things coming in PMCS with earned value, governance, bid management, safety, field management, and ad hoc module setup. So what I'm going to show you today is pretty much a configurable system that allows you to capture control details for your operation. So let's walk through a basic scenario. So this is typically a typical budgeting cycle to where you have open scheduling, open planning within your schedule. So this is Microsoft Project. You're going to post your projects to Project Server. Typical organizations that go through a yearly planning cycle, they leverage those as more or less budget requests. Okay, so on a yearly basis, typically like C-levels, they'll go through and say, wow, what is this organization requiring as far as budget to operate these projects? So this is really where your project planning details come in. It rolls up to an organizational level. They do budget analysis, and then from there, they're going to do budget allocations. Typically, those budget allocations are leveraged as the constraints to execute your plans. Okay. Again, Project Server doesn't do this well from a organizational perspective, even at a project level. It's just based on the delivery schedule. So we're going to go through how to set this cycle up. Really basic scenario. We all know what this is, right? It's a basic schedule. So we have a basic schedule. We have a tasks defined. We have durations, work set up. We have resources assigned. And here we have costs. Costs are broken out by the tasks. This is an auto calculation within the Project Server. Now, from a cost breakdown situation, now this is typically a delivery structure is focused on what and how do I deliver to a client or internal cap project versus a cost breakdown structure is how are costs managed, okay? So typically, again, if you're working with ERP systems or control platforms, this is just a component of how you're controlling the delivery of that operation, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can pretty much create this, this cost breakdown structure, which can be the same or can be separate from your delivery structure. So the first thing we're doing here is we're going into this, should look familiar to us all. This is Project Server 2013. This is the landing page. On the landing page, we have this function in here called CBS Management, Cost Breakdown Structure Management. So in here, we're going to create a very simple cost breakdown structure. You see we have Project X, WBS, or CBS, whatever you want to call it. We have 5 nodes. Now, these nodes are essentially buckets to aggregate cost against, all right? A lot of organizations with ERP platforms, they will typically do this in their ERP system to manage project accounting. From here, we're going to go ahead into our project web app. We're going to go into the project information. What we've done is we've loaded that CBS structure into a set of custom fields. So that Project X, WBS, or CBS, cost breakdown structure that I created, is now just a field, custom field, against budget structure. So we're going to go ahead and select Project X, WBS. So now that's going to synchronize this project delivery schedule with that budget structure. From here, we're actually going into the project web app, and we're going into each one of the tasks. Again, this is just a basic scenario to where we're actually going to assign budget nodes to these scheduling items. All right? Real basic. We're looking to aggregate up to this budgeting structure. From here, what I did was I just changed the grouping on the view to just group by the WBS node. All right? So all the details from a cost perspective now roll up. So this is essentially our planning. These are our planning details based on our budget node. Okay? So now when details roll into this budgeting node, from an accounting perspective, they're not just focusing on your delivery structure anymore. Now they're focusing on your cost breakdown structure of how you're looking to deliver from a costing perspective. So from here, we're now going to go into a tool, in 2013 again, portal, into an area called PMCS, Project Management Control System. Now, I'm running through this pretty quickly, so if I'm going too fast, someone raise their hand and slow me down. So this is PMCS. Okay, this is we've all gone into our project sites. This is a standard project site that's been, we've applied PMCS to it. What you see is site summaries. We have some details here for announcements, and then these are the core functions within PMCS. There's something like 96 different functions, and it's going to be extended out with a configuration module to create custom modules for your specific sites. Now, all the details in here typically roll up from site to program level. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the financials component. All right? We're going to open up the budgeting area. So if I open up the budgeting area, you can see here, this was from my project schedule. All right? In my project schedule, my total planned cost was $260,638. And you can see here, this is actually transmitted into PMCS to see the total plan defined, which is $260,638. From here, I can see what the total plan is against my line item where I could start creating budgets, defining budgets to control execution. From here, you can see I also have the project template name and the total budget balance, which is 0 because I have not created a budget yet. Okay? Now, again, I'm focusing on a project level scenario. This could be done at the program level and pushed down to the projects. So from here, I'm going to go in, real simple. I said, add new budget. So here, I'm going to put in an amount, $260,000, approval date, start date, so these can give you constraints on how you're executing that budget. From here, you can also see that we have workflows and a discussion area. All right, so we're not only setting up a budget, we can actually progress this through a workflow to gain approvals within our organization. From here, now I'm actually going to be able to define what my budget details are through the grid. Right? So here we have our budgets defined. You can see what our total plan was. And these were the nodes that we defined earlier, our cost breakdown structure. And remember, we went into the project web app and we defined those different CBS nodes against the tasks. What it did was it rolled it up based on what we had in the plans and that grouping. And you can see here, plan for 2013, plan for 2014, plan for 2015. And what I could do as a user, this is a one-to-one model. Typically, this wouldn't happen. You'd typically create a budget constraint to where it would transmit back to the schedule to where I would make adjustments from there. So here, you can see that I have 100 node, plan was 21,640, and I created a budget of 21,640. So from here, it's gone into my control environment, and I'm saying, okay, this plan looks good. I'm going to approve it for the full budget. You can see my total plan, total budget. Total plan defined, total budget defined, total budget allocated. Now from here, it'll go through a workflow process. Now this is actually really in depth, so this is mocked up a little bit. But just to show you, it's graphically done to where you would set up a PM to where you'd click into these areas, you'd set up the user, define the user, and it would progress through a workflow through your organization to approve that budget to be allocated to your schedule. From here, you would publish, and the details from your actual PMCS environment would be transferred down to your Microsoft project schedule. Here you can see, based on those nodes, really basic scenario, we have budget constraint, total cost, actual cost, remaining cost, based on what our budget constraint is and what our remaining budget is. So it's just a quick scenario to give you an understanding of, base planning, progressed up to an organizational level, to where I'm going to go through, evaluate that plan, and set up a budget to create constraints, approve the budget, push it down to my plan, back into the MSP schedule. And now our questions again. Do you budget based on a CBSWS structure? I think most of us do. I mean, most companies do, and it's easy with an EPM and a PMCS type solution. Can Project Server be used to manage project budgets? Out of the box, it's difficult, but it can be achieved. Can you control budgets without schedule changes? Yes, PMCS can be a standalone or integrated model with your project schedule. It's easy. Link it, sync it, think. So I think that leaves us about 5 minutes for questions and answers. Material cost is the same thing. So there's actually a session I'm doing tomorrow. So budgeting is, so think of it like this. You're going to do budget allocations based on labor, materials, whatever the node you're defining it as. And from an execution standpoint, tomorrow I believe it's 9:40, I'm going to take this and I'm going to demonstrate contracts. So from here, it's going to show you your budget constraints, and then you can create contracts for labor and so on and so on. Okay? Yeah, absolutely. So you'll see, again, from a contractual standpoint and actual standpoint, you're actually going to select budgeting nodes for execution. So you'll see from the costing perspective how you can pick and choose different WBS nodes or CBS nodes. It's typically an organization, I would say, from our experience, we haven't seen it to where you would, more or less guesstimate with percentages. It's more absolute to where it's this budget for this type of task or how you're executing, and these are the contracts that are placed against that budget. Other questions? Thank you. Party time.